Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon here, back for another video here on Marvel Strike Force. Today is Wednesday, which means we are on the release day of Ancient One, and therefore we have another episode of Should You Core Ancient One edition. Now, we're going to be talking about the character. We're going to be doing a bit of a recap on what she does, and then we're going to get to the bottom of whether or not she's worth spending your power cores on. Now, Ancient One is, of course, part of the Astral team, which is a Battle World focused team. I know there's a lot to talk about with regards to Battle World, but we're going to try and put that to one side. We're going to be talking specifically about this character, though, and the value that she has, both within the team and just more broadly, depending on the kit. So if you're ready to go, everybody, let's boil this down. And to kickstart this video, I do want to start off with the stats table for Ancient One. So we can kind of get a better idea of how she stacks up to other recent characters and relevant characters in her range. So as far as her health goes, she is number 14 with 9. This is maxed, right? And I know you're not going to get maxed, and this is not going to happen for some time. It's not really that important. It's more the rankings that matter. So we do have number 14 in HP, but it's actually tied. She's tied with Lady Deathstrike and Omega Sentinel. So that's fine. She is a brawler type character, so she is kind of like a DPS sort of character, which is kind of in line here with Lady Deathstrike, so that'll be kind of interesting to see. Although, of course, as a newer character, right, you're not going to have as many stars as you would of a reworked character, although her kit should be a little better than your standard reworked ones. Let's take a look at her damage, and Ancient One is 9, which is good. 550,000. This is equivalent to Agatha. Agatha hits really hard, so that's something. I believe Agatha also had piercing in her kit. And then also equivalent to Sentinel. I'm surprised Omega Sentinel is actually that high on the stats table. It seems that Ancient One is slightly lower than Lady Deathstrike, which is a little bit disappointing, but still in the top 10 overall, so that's okay. As far as her armor goes, she's pretty high actually. For a brawler character, for a damage character, she's 5th in on armor. That's pretty impressive actually, tied with Sentinel. So maybe she's a bit of a tankier sort of DPS character, which could be good for her survivability. Her focus is not directly in the top 10. Actually, in fact, I have to search for it, apparently. She's 20th in focus, so she's down here. And at 103,000 tied with Nimrod. I mean, at this point, with the base stat changes, it's probably not that big of a deal. It's still pretty good enough, I would say. Considering that Gwenum with a focus passive is 19. So there you go. And then her resistance is number 13 over there, tied with the likes of Omega Sentinel. So overall, her stats are still pretty solid. I think where she excels the most seems to be in armor. So she's not going to like drop dead anytime soon because she does have a fair bit of armor stat into her, which is actually pretty decent. Let's take a look at her speed. Pretty far down there, 65 at 122, tied with characters like Apocalypse, and a touch slower than Thanos Endgame, who has 123. However, Ancient One does have speed in her kit, which we'll take a look at here as we move over to that. So she is Hero Global, Mystic Brawler. Now, one thing that I do think is funny is that she's global, and Doctor Strange is cosmic. And I know that Doctor Strange is an old character, but however, I would say that Ancient One and Strange should have had the same tags, essentially, more or less, because Ancient One taught Doctor Strange, especially in the MCU, right? And so I find that a bit funny, and they cannot be used together in that instance. So that's disappointing for something like it. Not that they have necessarily callouts, but I mean they're on the same team. And for things like Dark Dimension 7, Cosmic, for example, just hypothetically. I know you probably use Annihilators anyways, I digress. Let's move on. Okay, so let's start talking about the passive first. And we're going to be taking a look at the pre-awakened ability. We're going to talk about what the awakened does for Alliance War. So on turn, let me zoom in one. On turn, flip heal block on self and all allies. Cool. On self and astral ally crit. Now this is big. This is outside of Battle World as well. It's on all game modes. On self and astral ally crit, generate 1 ability energy for self and all astral allies. So this is going to be really good in Battle World, even though it's not specific to Battle World, for longer fights, things like that, the null fight, etc. Is going to be a really important skill to the team, right? Especially for the null boss battle, where it's going to be a little bit of a longer battle. You're going to want to get those ability energies back. I think that's really important to the character and the team. In Battle World specifically, if she has 3 or more astral allies, this is basically going to require you to have Emma Frost as well, because it won't activate until you have a total of 4 members, 3 plus herself, right? They cannot spawn with Taunt. Now, where that's relevant, I'm not entirely sure. Honestly, it's a good ability. I think it's almost more relevant to War, which I believe is where the Awakened gets added on. On spawn, apply Safeguard to all allies. That's fine. On turn, this is a big one too, but also, unfortunately, specific to Battle World. But this should help for things like the Null boss battle as well. Basically, the duration of all positive effects +1 to a max of 3. So depending on the turn order, it might start stacking other characters' buffs up when she takes her turn. While this character has counter, reduce enemy crit chance by 50%. This is in all game modes, and that's pretty good as well. And then she has a guaranteed counterattack chance and extra crit damage. So she's definitely going to want to be a raider, not just because of the passive here, but she has a lot of extra crit damage. So I just want to stack that up even higher. The focus of this character and each astral ally can only be reduced by offense down. Also very unique. I think it's the first person to have that. Now, the upgrade for the Awakened passive is just going to apply a lot of this to War as well. The Safeguard, this is really important. A lot of this is actually pretty important, at least to the usage of War. I don't think that Alliance War is a very important game mode. I think it's one of the worst game modes in Marvel Strike Force, as far as your investment, as far as, wanting to care about it. So this is really important to her and the Astral team. But as far as, the importance of this overall, War is not really that important. So it really depends on how this is available free to play, which we obviously don't know yet. Now, starting with our basic, this part's interesting. Attack primary and adjacent targets. So it's a multi-hit attack for 200% piercing and apply 2 bleed. And if any of those crit, apply an additional 2 bleed to those targets. So you could get up to 4 bleed on a single target on a crit. And that's exactly why you want to have Raider. And honestly, I think her basic is really good. Like, that's a lot of damage potential from just a basic attack. When forced to attack an ally, this character bloods. So that's on all astral characters, right? Her special is on a cooldown of 4 and has AoE damage. So flip all positives into negatives. I love that this happens before any damage is done. Attack all enemies for 200% piercing plus 5% of the target's max health. So even against Null, that's still going to be valuable. Apply heal block for 2 turns and then 50% extra crit damage. So again, with Raider, you're stacking up a ton of extra crit damage on this character. So she's like an absolute damage machine. Apply 3 counter to self and all allies, which is then going to trigger the passive about having counter, right? It's going to be important. And then in Battle World, apply speed up to self and all allies. It's unfortunate that's not 2 turns, though. This is unavoidable and cannot be blocked. So I like the unavoidable aspect. There's a lot of characters, like annoying characters honestly in War, but in all game modes, Spider Society, for example, anyone who has stacks of evade, this will hit them. And then in War, it applies the speed up to self. So I think it's fairly important. I think both of hers are kind of important for War, honestly. But again, I don't attribute a lot of value to Alliance War. That's just me. Her ultimate on a cooldown of 6. This is available on turn 2, unless somebody else crits. I don't know what the turn order of the team is, actually. Attack primary target for 250% piercing, plus rebound a bunch of times for 250 more. So that's a lot of total damage. Attack the most injured enemy for 250 and apply stun and speed bar by reduction by 100%. This is a lot. And then apply safeguard to self and all astral allies. It's fortunate that counterattack does break the chain. Unfortunately, I guess they don't want it to be too overpowered, because that is a lot of total damage. That's 1,000% piercing plus 250 more. It has a potential of a total damage output of 1,250% piercing, which is a lot. So yeah, if this hits like maybe 1 or 2 targets, just goes back and forth, right? This is going to be a crap ton of damage. So she is a very powerful character. I think that she's definitely going to be deserving of G19. I think she's going to be deserving of a Purple Raider 3. I think that, if you have it and you're going to unlock her early, I think I would just put everything into her. I think she's going to be very powerful. The question is, where are you going to use her? And I think obviously this is clear that the Astral team is going to be most dedicated to the Battle World game mode. There is the elite missions, right? Insert awkward transition as I just finished saying right. But this is Battle World. I wanted to have this up when I was talking about it, but I didn't. So the elite missions, right? It's not so hard right now. We're in D0, but some of these missions are, I think, going to get more challenging, and they're especially going to become more challenging for early and mid-game players, because a lot of younger players are not going to have are not going to have Pegasus built, and so you're going to want to have Astral built. The modifiers are a lot of increased damage, So this AoE that Ancient One is already putting out is going to be insane on these challenge missions, which are really important for your total VPs, right? It's where's the rewards? Up here, like 5,400, right, at D0. This is going to be a lot because if you compare this to the other battle missions, which I've already done at this point, but you know, if you were to do the challenge mission with Astral, it's equivalent to almost all three of the other missions. So getting this done long term in higher difficulties is going to be really important. And at least for this one, this is Zone 2, by the way. This one does have an Old Man Logan in it, which I think might be a bit of an issue when it comes to like difficulty 3, 4, and 5. Old Man Logan on this one has spawns in with like 3 evade for some reason. So Ancient One will kick the crap out of him, especially at higher difficulties when you have Ancient One built up. So I think it's going to be really important. And obviously, when we get to Zone 6, when you do the null battle, yes, I realize that at this point in time, we only have 3 astral characters, or we will have 3 astral characters. I still think that your your weekly progress in Battle World is going to matter long term. Yeah, I know we only get 3 shards this week on D0, but you know, when we do get to D4 and D5, you're going to be getting 8 and 10 shards every single week. And making sure that you can help your alliance push this a little bit faster, I think is really going to be important to that. Now, one other consideration that you might want to take whether or not you want to core Ancient One would be for the showcase, which you can kind of see in game. Mind over matter, the actual the showcase in general, but when you click on it, nothing actually happens. However, we do know from the blog some of the stuff that's going to be in it, and it says earn turkeys from the astral showcase. We do know that there's going to be multiple levels by star level, so there will be like a bonus level or a chapter 2 for Ancient One where you'll be able to earn some stuff. It is mentioned here. It doesn't specifically call out that the turkeys are going to be on chapter 2, but I think it's going to be a lot like the Night Stalkers one where you can farm candy on it. So you can see that there's 5 missions, 3 through 7 yellow, and then if you go to the Dead of Night, I honestly think it's going to look a lot like this, where you're just going to get like increasing amounts of turkey depending on how many stars you have. So I think that's probably what it's going to look like for the Astral Showcase and also for Ancient One. So basically having Ancient One unlocked early is going to also allow you to be able to farm, I got to assume, farm turkeys early as well. So another kind of positive thing for you unlocking the character a little bit early. So I think basically all of that sums up my thoughts on the Ancient One, and I guess it comes down to the final question of should you core for her? I will be. I've been saving my power cores for Astral because while I don't like Alliance War, I do think that Battle World is going to be an important mainstay in this game for better or for worse. But how we feel about this after week 1, nonetheless, we're going to be doing this every single day. You're going to be using Astral every single day, especially when you get to D4 and D5, when Pegasus can't clear it, which means that having Ancient One available early on for you to be able to use this team in full, you know, and this is going to go forward to when Emma Frost comes out, when I do that video as well, because I do think that this team is important. And I think that making sure that you contribute as much as you possibly can in Battle World against Null and also in the Elite missions is going to help your alliance long term. And Astral is a PvE team. I put PvE teams, just like raids, you know, very high up on the list because it's stuff that you're going to be using every single day or every single week in this instance. Both, actually. And so I prescribe a lot of value to this. Will she be great in Dark Dimension? Probably not, because she's a global character. Is she going to be great in Cosmic Crucible? I don't know. That remains to be seen. But she does seem to be a heavy hitter type character. So is she fast enough to really have a good value in Crucible? That's hard to say. But know that, you know, when there's new Cosmic Crucible seasons, they tend to use the characters, right? They had the Night Stalkers and Undying in the current Cosmic Crucible season. I have no doubts that they're going to bring out some sort of Astral or some other season that's going to benefit them there as well. So this is a character that's going to be under deep consideration that you're going to want to have built up, I think. Anyways, and I'm not just saying that. I am going to spend my cores on her when she comes out. So that's it for me for this video. Let me know what your thoughts are of Ancient One and Astral or Battle World in the comments down below. Until next time, everybody, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.